Hello and good day. Welcome to today's webinar, Symantec plus Big Switch Networks, Simplified Security Orchestration in the Data Center. This is Judy Ash, and I'm the Head of Corporate Marketing here at Big Switch, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Welcome, everyone. Joining me today is Greg Mayfield, Director of Blue Coat Product Marketing at Symantec, Bala Ramachandran, Director of Product Management and our Technical Alliance Program here at Big Switch, and Arkadiy Shapiro, our Principal Technical Marketing Engineer here at Big Switch. As we go through the presentation today, please feel free to ask questions using our Q&A box on your webinar dashboard. If you're watching the video in a rebroadcast or on demand and you have questions on a particular upcoming webinar topic that you'd like our panelists to address, please go to bigswitch.com/webinars and submit a question using the link provided. We've also, as always, provided you handouts for today's sessions. You can download them from the Handouts tab on your dashboard. Really easy. We do have a full agenda for today's webinar. This is a big topic. Our first speaker is Greg, our Director at Blue Coat Product Marketing at Symantec, and Symantec recently acquired Blue Coat, for those of you that don't know. He'll present Symantec SSL Visibility Appliance and Security Analytics, and then we'll be followed by Bala and Arkadiy for an overview of our big monitoring fabric inline and out-of-band solutions, as well as a product demo. With that, let me turn it over to Greg. Thank you, Greg, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here, and good day to everybody out there, and thank you for attending this seminar. And with that, I'd like to do a quick introduction before I go into talking about the Symantec solutions. And then from there, we'll actually move into the Big Switch type of discussion that Judy just mentioned. So first and foremost, when you think about what's going on today with SSL and TLS traffic, it's actually quite pervasive and growing very rapidly. And why is this happening? It should be no surprise that encrypted traffic is growing because of the massive use of cloud, mobile, and web applications out there. Think about it. So many organizations are moving towards the cloud, and with the cloud comes encrypted communications. The benefit of that is that you have secure communications end-to-end. The disadvantage of that is that this is one area where the bad guys agree with the good guys. Is while it's a good thing for secure communications for, say, your CRM application or your ERP application, it's also a very good thing for advanced malware and threats to take advantage of the organization and propagate. If you look at the latest stats, this is from Gartner, see on the bottom of your left screen, is that by next year, 2017, over 50% of all malware will use SSL to actually invade organizations. That's not very good. It's going up significantly versus where we stand today, and that'll only continue. If you look at the right-hand side of the screen, when I talk about these threats, if you're not familiar with them, these advanced persistent threats that I'm referring to go under very common names, popular names like Dire, Zeus, SpyEye, Game Over, Drydex. The list goes on and on. And so you'll find out that there are various variants of these being created as kits and then modified slightly and then repropagated throughout the internet. So it's an ongoing thing where we need to battle this appropriately. And by the way, just to give a set precedence, is that when I refer to SSL, I just do it out of familiarity, but the latest standard is TLS, but you'll just hear me say SSL throughout this presentation, even though I'm referring to both the standards, including the most modern one, TLS. Next slide, please. So to continue on with issues that are in challenges and so forth, besides SSL inspection being an issue, you find out that from a scalability and performance standpoint, it's also troublesome for organizations. Because of the number crunching that goes on in SSL and encryption in general, you find out that it hinders device performance. So those devices that may try and do it typically suffer from a performance hit, and by that, they also affect the device throughput of the network traffic going through it. That's not very good. And you realize today, because so many different tools are now being provided by different vendors, that multiple tools need access and visibility into the decrypted traffic in order to do their jobs. If they can't see into the encrypted traffic, they're not 100% effective. So think about that. If you've already spent money on your network infrastructure, your security infrastructure, and you have a lot of encrypted traffic, your encrypted traffic is basically weakening the effectiveness of your infrastructure if you can't get into it and inspect it and analyze it appropriately. And in larger networks, scalability, fault tolerance, and service chaining, for example, and this is something where Big Switch comes in and complements our solution, are big important areas because obviously if you have a very complex and large, powerful network, you find out that it can become cumbersome if you're dealing with archaic ways of actually connecting all these tools together. So that's why we're here today, is to talk about the issues with encrypted traffic and how you can scale and work on a more effective solution. So with that, let's start off with the Symantec solution. And as you can see from the slides, once again, just to reiterate, very recently we were actually, Blue Coat was acquired by Symantec. So forgive me if I go back and forth and I say Symantec or Blue Coat through this discussion, but I'm really referring to obviously our latest organization. Let's talk about the SSL Visibility Appliance. So as I mentioned before, the advanced threats are taking advantage of SSL traffic today. From a recent survey that took place by CyberEdge earlier this year, they asked CISOs and security IT leaders what their top concerns were. And no surprise, SSL encrypted threats is part of that. But look at these other 4 points that are on this top 5 list. Realize malware, phishing, and even APTs relate to and are supported by SSL encrypted threats. So it's not just the threats themselves, because they can actually affect all these other types of challenges that are faced here. Look at the right-hand side of the screen and you look at the specific results. And notice several years ago, in 2014, when they issued this survey, the question wasn't even asked. It wasn't even available. So at that time, you could say that it was ignorance. People didn't know about this rising threat and the impact that it had on businesses. Now that it's very dominant and that encrypted traffic is so pervasive in enterprises, if CISOs or IT security executives don't address it, it really comes down to negligence. You know it's an issue. You have to address it. And of course, there are ramifications if you don't. There's liability issues and legislation and so forth, or litigation, excuse me, that can happen as a result. So realize this is a top concern. If you're not thinking about it, ask your peers, ask your management, and you'll find out that it probably is some type of challenge that's in the back of their minds, if not up front. So next slide. And to continue on with the point I mentioned earlier, here's some research that we've conducted at Blue Coat Labs. This was done earlier this year. Now Blue Coat Labs has merged with Symantec Labs. And with this research, if you look at the top number, you find out malware, as I mentioned before, has increased rapidly. Over a 2-year period, they found out that SSL-based malware of known malnet sites worldwide increased 58 times. So that certainly is challenging in itself. What's more disconcerting is if you look at the very bottom of the slide, if you look at the malware samples actually being created and propagated through command and control servers. Within 1 year, from quarter of end of the 2014 to end of 2015, it increased 200 times. So think about that. It's not only an issue of bad malware or advanced threats actually using SSL and getting into an organization. It's actually more common that you have command and control sneaking to an organization, perhaps through some other type of threat, such as email phishing, going to a false website. And you realize that it's not only an inbound issue, it's also an outbound, because when it comes to command and control servers, these are types of tools that are used to steal information, proprietary information, and take that out of the organization and then typically, being sold on the black market. So once again, inbound and outbound issue, don't look at it as one or the other, it's actually both. And command and control is actually on the rise and driving this, unfortunately. Next slide. So if you look at third-party confirmation of whether this issue, you may be doubtful. I can understand that, because if you haven't looked at your own network to understand how much SSL TLS traffic you have, you may be very, very cautious about what I'm saying here today. But without a doubt, realize this is a top concern. Just a couple years ago, the U.S. CERT organization actually stated that a best practice is SSL inspection for both inbound and outbound traffic. So that's something that certainly carries a lot of weight and a lot of impact within U.S. organizations and global organizations that have U.S. offices. Another point is just using Securosis, a very well-respected analyst firm. We worked with them on a white paper, and they talk about, once again, the importance and mandate of doing encrypted traffic management. They also bring a perspective in that you may be concerned with, which is the data privacy concern, because there are more and more data privacy mandates being created, and it's important that you adhere to them as you build your defense in depth and take advantage of an effective encrypted traffic management solution and strategy. Just two industry samples I wanted to share with you. Next slide. So a question you may be asking is, I have a bunch of security tools throughout my network infrastructure. Why can't I just use those? Well, realize a lot of these tools, in fact, most of these security solutions are blind to SSL. They weren't even designed to look at encrypted traffic. It's just part of their nature. Network forensics tools, DLP, anti-malware or sandbox solutions, those types of tools are completely unaware of encrypted traffic, and they just need assistance in doing so. So imagine if 30% of your network traffic is SSL. Well, think about it this way. 30% of these devices are basically blind to those tools, and if you put it into money terms, you're only getting 70% of value of that tool. Obviously, you want to get 100% of value and get a better return on investment. That's our goal with what we're providing here at Symantec. Now, granted, if you look at the bottom of the slide here, there are several tools out there that do provide some type of SSL decryption, maybe as one of many features. However, you find out there are limitations and insufficiencies with this. Next-gen firewalls typically do many, many things. You find out that the next-gen firewalls out there suffer tremendous performance degradation once SSL was turned on as a feature. Independent labs have indicated that they suffer up to 80% performance degradation. So say you spend $100,000 on a firewall, you find out you're only getting $20,000 worth of performance. Now, granted, you could certainly add hardware capacity or just double or triple your appliances for next-gen firewalls, but that then blows your cost effectiveness and blows your ROI for that type of solution. We find many customers say that this breaks their bank from an IT budget standpoint. You also have load balancers or application delivery controllers, ADCs. Those are also providing SSL inspection as one of many features, and you find out that it's very complex to actually set them up and get them working appropriately. They add a lot of complexity, there's a lot of scripting, and you have an open sandwich kind of play when you think about it, because you have an exposed area between the two load balancers that are working in an infrastructure. And then intrusion prevention. Some intrusion prevention solutions may offer SSL inspection as a feature, but you find those being more merged into next-gen firewalls. But realize that you do have a few tools out there that may do this as an option, but unfortunately it's complex and very costly for you to do so. We're trying to overcome that and provide a complementary solution. Next slide, please. So our approach at Symantec is what we call encrypted traffic management. Rather than just saying it's a feature within a device that does SSL decryption, it's bigger than that. You have to make this a specific design point, a part of your architecture going forward if you want to address it. It's only going to get worse when it comes to the amount of and the pervasiveness of SSL/TLS traffic across a network infrastructure. It's going to continue. Right now, the average amount in most enterprises that we talk to and looking at independent reports is about 50%. Some vertical industries like healthcare and government and financials hit over 70 or 80%. So imagine most organizations as they move to cloud and mobile applications will probably hit 80 to 90%, if not 100%, say over the next several years. So you need to address this. And so our approach with this kind of architectural design perspective is that first and foremost you need complete and automatic visibility into all encrypted traffic. Not looking at specific port numbers, because you realize while some applications are nice and may use port 443, that a lot of malware and advanced threats switch ports, especially because these are kits and they can be changed, if not on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. So port 443 is not the only port you should be looking at. And being able to do that automatically without having pre-knowledge, advanced knowledge of the threat is very important and very logical. Next point is preserving cryptography levels. You realize there are a lot of cryptography standards out there, and some are actually being deprecated. SHA-1, for those of you that are into the hash algorithms, that's being deprecated this year, moving to SHA-256. Now, I say the term SSL. SSL 3.0 is actually obsolete now. So if you look at a lot of industry standards, or I should say regulations like HIPAA or PCI, that's actually being deprecated, and they're saying don't use any SSL, get that out of your network, and make sure you're moving towards TLS, which is the latest and greatest evolved standard out there. So make sure that your solution, and this is our perspective, maintains the highest level of cryptography and is up to date. We don't downgrade any of the cryptography used in your network. Next point that you see on the third point here is enhancing the existing infrastructure and enhancing the ROI. The solution we're offering at Symantec is not a rip and replace solution. You keep the firewalls, you keep your load balancers, you keep your IPSs and sandbox solutions. We complement them and make them more effective and extend the ROI and the value of those tools. So it's certainly not a rip and replace competitive solution. Quite frankly, it's a complementary solution. Then last but not least, data privacy compliance while actually maintaining security. That's very important. Maintaining a balance where this is bad stuff or unknown malicious stuff, and we want to inspect it and decrypt it, while at the same time we know this is good traffic or select traffic that cannot be touched because of regulations. We'll let that pass through in its encrypted state and let it move on appropriately. So you need to have that balance of selective decryption so through policies, so you maintain data privacy compliance. These are all the 4 important points that we pursue and we provide to you in part of our encrypted traffic management schemes. Let's go on to the next slide here. So I talked about those 4 points, so let's build with this. So I talked about the first point of eliminating the encrypted traffic blind spot. So the way we deliver that, our flagship product at Symantec is the SSL Visibility Appliance. This is a dedicated tool to look at encrypted traffic, identify it, and monitor and control it appropriately. So when we talk about eliminating that blind spot, we have automatic visibility into all SSL traffic. We look at all ports, all traffic. We don't care what the number is. So even if there's a port number, 5827 or 10,003, doesn't matter. We will identify it and log it appropriately so you can take action on it without actually having some preconfined notion. Next point, we talk about preserving data privacy and compliance. I mentioned this just a moment ago, but selective decryption is really important, where you can say, this is good stuff, we're going to let it pass through. This is bad stuff, we're actually going to set a policy to inspect it and decrypt it and pass it on to other devices. Within the SSL Visibility Appliance, we have a service, a capability called host categorization. That's a license-based functionality that links into our back-end global database, what we call the Global Intelligence Network. And that allows you to create these up-to-date, real-time policies that make it very easy for you to say, this is personal, say, banking data or healthcare-related information or whatnot, and then set policies on that. It really simplifies the policy creation process. And when we talk about the highest level of security encryption, I mentioned before, this is a dedicated appliance. It does nothing but encrypted traffic management. It's not a load balancer. It's not a firewall. It's not a proxy. It is a dedicated complementary device. We can support up to 9 gigabit of SSL throughput. That's an extreme amount of SSL TLS traffic. Just to give you an understanding, most enterprises I've dealt with are typically under 1 gig of throughput. So we certainly have the scalability in enterprise environments to support them. And we support over 70 cipher suites. If you look at firewalls or even load balancers, you find out there's limitations in the number of cipher suites they support. For example, the leading firewalls typically support under, say, 12 to 15 cipher suites out there. So they limit you to using what they support as opposed to what the industry standards are and what's evolving. We don't want to do that to you. You want to make sure you support the latest standards, especially as Google and Yahoo and companies like that continue to evolve TLS and SSL. We talk about the highest level of encryption, and this I just mentioned that briefly, but we talk about scalability and multiple output streams. From one appliance, you can support multiple segments and multiple devices. So we can provide support for your IDS and your firewall and maybe a DLP or your secure web gateway. security analytics and forensics, malware analysis, sandboxing. We can support and feed all of those devices simultaneously from one appliance so that you don't have to do it on a one-by-one or a tool-by-tool basis. So this really provides scale and efficiency across your infrastructure. And then last but not least, when you talk about management, one of the capabilities that we have, of course, besides just managing, one appliance at a time, of course, we have a nice graphical user interface to allow you to control these SSL appliances. You can do it from a centralized area. We call it Management Center. Management Center is something we use across Symantec and Blue Coat solutions that provides your inventory, your monitoring, your config, backup, and scheduling, and so forth. So when we talk about encrypted traffic management, the flagship solution that we offer at Symantec is the SSL Visibility Appliance, dedicated tool that allows you to actually easily introduce this functionality into your enterprise infrastructure. And if I talk about that one point where we enhance the existing security tools and infrastructure, I mentioned this a moment ago, decrypt once, feed many. This is very efficient and once again provides scale. And it avoids additional hardware that you may need to feed multiple devices simultaneously. In this case, we work with all kinds of devices out there, many vendors. And as I mentioned before, multiple security devices are benefited from this, whether it's anti-malware sandbox or you have security analytics. That's actually just kind of slightly covered underneath the that one icon. IDS, IPS, firewalls, DLP. You see key and certificate management, and that's growing in popularity because you have a lot of certificates and keys being used in enterprises. We also interface with those types of tools by vendors like Venafi and Gemalto or SafeNet. And then if you see on the left-hand side, obviously, we work with visibility and packet broker solutions like Big Switch. So Big Switch is part of our ETM Ready program. That is the encrypted traffic management partner program that we have, and it includes over 20 partners that support these various functional areas and complement the SSL Visibility Appliance, and in the end, provide an overall integrated solution for you as a customer. And then last but not least, I want to emphasize what you see here in blue, the Global Intelligence Network. That is our collaborative real-time database that is updated constantly, and with information regarding encrypted traffic categories and malware and so forth. That information is exchanged with SSL visibility appliances in your network in real time so that you can actually have the most up-to-date security posture. Note that the Global Intelligence Network is something consistent across all of the Blue Coat, now Symantec products. So if you're talking about our proxy or our security analytics solution, which I'll mention in a moment, or you're talking about our malware analysis appliance, they all benefit from the Global Intelligence Network that provides that fundamental up-to-date threat posture that you need to keep your defenses up to date. And I wanted to emphasize this one point here where I talk about that fourth pillar of preserving data privacy compliance. So selective decryption is very, very important to emphasize. And I mentioned the host categorization service. The slide diagram that you see on the very right-hand side, this is a screenshot of our host categorization category list. This, once again, comes from that Global Intelligence Network. We have 80-plus categories, and these are used throughout the product line at Blue Coat and now Symantec that allow you to simplify your policy creation. So if you look at what I have, a few things checked off there. You have suspicious traffic, phishing, malicious outbound malnets. You have inbound and malnets and so forth. But you could take it further and do things like gambling or pornography or whatever it may be. And you could set either whitelist policies, meaning don't touch this traffic, or you can set blacklist policies saying, listen, block or inspect and decrypt this type of traffic. So this significantly simplifies the whole policy creation that you can implement within your infrastructure. And it's customizable per every company. Every company has the same policies, of course. And also, policies or mandates change from one industry to the other. This helps you easily achieve that within your own organization so that you can do what's right and what's set by your compliance and legal and HR teams. So it's important to make sure you collaborate with them and understand what are considered, what's considered good traffic and what's considered bad traffic, and then create policies on that appropriately. Now, besides talking about the SSL Visibility Appliance, I also want to emphasize another solution that we offer here, our security analytics capabilities. And we offer a security analytics solution here that also works with the SSL Visibility Appliance and works with, very much so, the Big Switch Network solution. So this type of tool, if you're not familiar with it, is basically network forensics. So it provides full visibility into all of your network activity from a packet and flow analysis standpoint. And it's used specifically for forensics analysis and for incident response. So you get information about what happened during an incident before, during, and after that incident, and you can track that and mitigate that appropriately. You find the source of the problem. So the whole purpose of these types of tools is that it reduces the time to resolution and reduces the impact it has on your overall organization. Just think about this. If there's an analogy you can have for a security analytics solution, is that it's the security camera for your network. It's constantly monitoring and recording what's going on. Let's elaborate on this just a little bit more with this next slide. So here are all the capabilities that we offer with our security analytics solution. Once again, real-time analysis and visibility and capture of everything that's going on in your network. So we can record, classify, and index all the packets and flows that are going across your network, and do that at a high speed, at wire speed. We can understand and classify over 2,500 applications, and we obviously have metadata that's created and used for analysis as a result. And then we can track in real time any data exfiltration or infiltration that you have across your network. So we can actually track that and then obviously mitigate that and stop that from happening. And then, from a security context and index standpoint, we have a lot of capabilities that let you set policies for reputation or certain, social personas or other types of parameters you can use actually for tracking and flagging things that are of interest to your organization. And then I mentioned this before, it's kind of like the black box type of approach. It provides all information where you get to root cause analysis and understand the impact that you have on your network and easily resolve, or I should say quickly resolve that, and in a very efficient manner. So very complementary tool to our SSL Visibility Appliance and very complementary to the Big Switch solution. In fact, let's take a look at the next slide here, and it kind of shows how you pull these devices together. So very simple diagram, but think about this when you're talking about all the things we're discussing here today. So the Big Switch solution provides the load balancing, fault tolerance, security service chaining across not only Symantec tools like I have here, the Visibility Appliance, the analytics solution, and even data loss prevention, but many other security tools that I'm not showing on this slide out of simplicity. The benefit that Symantec offers is obviously we have complete visibility even into formally encrypted traffic. So if you look at this diagram, you have multiple segments that may come into the Big Switch solution. That then feeds into the SSL Visibility Appliance, and based on selective decryption, can decrypt and inspect that traffic and send it to the security analytics device or send it to data loss prevention devices, or quite frankly, other tools that, that may be provided here. And it does that through a very powerful policy enforcement capabilities, policies that exist for the SSL Visibility Appliance, policies that exist for security analytics, and there's even policies for data loss prevention. So you have a very granular capability to look at what's important to you and to flag any type of incidents appropriately. High performance inspection and decryption, there's various deployment modes, and once again, the key benefit is that you have rapid identification of any type of incidents and rapid response to those incidents appropriately. And obviously, the overall benefit is you have complete visibility and control of your network, and it comes down to really cost-effective scaling and fault tolerance. While we can support a few segments with the SSL Visibility Appliance, you could do load balancing between like 2 devices, if you will. It's not really a load balancer, and it doesn't have the scale for large enterprise environments that you would have if you would bring a tool like Big Switch Networks in here. So this packet broker and visibility tool really extends the scale and capability of what we're offering here between our SSL Visibility Appliance and our security analytics solution. It basically, I would say, puts these solutions on steroids. So with that, I will continue the story by handing it off to Bala. And Bala, take it from there, and I'll be glad to answer any questions at the end of the webinar today.
Thanks so much, Greg. It was great to learn about how Symantec is helping tackle modern world security problems with your portfolio of industry-leading SSLVA and security analytics products. And specifically, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the increasing need for scalable security in the data center. So what I'll be talking next is about how Big Switch and Symantec are together providing scalable security solutions to protect your data centers end to end. So let's take a step back and look at the DMZ first, and some of the key issues when deploying security tools at the DMZ or the extranet. So we all know DMZ is a gatekeeper of the data center. It's a place where a slew of security tools are deployed, and traffic potentially needs to go through multiple of these tools. For example, firewalls, SSL Visibility Appliances, IPS, web proxy. In addition, different types of traffic need to go through different set of tools, which in other words means we need to create multiple tool chains. People have tried to use existing technologies like policy-based routing rules to steer traffic across these tools, but they are complex. It's hard to use them and create dynamic service chaining logic. Now, with such an infrastructure, it is hard to add more tools, difficult to load balance traffic across the tools, and there's no easy way to detect tool failures. It's hard to reroute the traffic on tool failures even if we detect them. And last but not the least, these solutions are expensive and cumbersome to configure with a box-by-box approach. So essentially, all of these limit tool efficiency and create a lot of operational challenges. So solving all of these issues need rethink in terms of the architecture with a different software-based approach. So the answer to your problems is the Big Mon Inline solution. The solution uses an SDN-based approach to tremendously simplify and manage dynamic service chains, and is also done at a very affordable cost by leveraging industry-standard open networking hardware. Now, the Big Mon Inline solution consists of software running on the controller, the Big Monitoring Fabric controller, and it manages industry-standard 10 gig, 40 gig, 100 gig open networking switches. And today we have qualified Dell and Acton switches to work with our software, and these switches are deployed in an HA configuration, and they run a lightweight switch light operating system. The inline security tools directly connect to the switches, and the Big Mon controller actually acts as a central point of control. It configures multiple policies on the switches to create different traffic paths through the inline tools. So with this solution, tools can be linked together in a chain, and specific traffic can be steered through them as selected by the user matching criteria. Say, for example, with the joint solution we have with Symantec Blue Coat's SSLV, you could have the SSL traffic through the Symantec SSLV and IPS, while you may want the non-SSL traffic to bypass the SSLV device. So essentially, by doing this, you're improving the efficiency of the SSLV tool by sending only the interesting traffic to it. So you can have service chain with one set of tools upstream, another set of tools downstream. You can have chains which are configured as unidirectional or bidirectional, a lot of flexibility. And Big Mon Inline can also be used to load balance across multiple tools. So creating and modifying service chains by adding, removing, and bypassing tools to the security chains can all be done with a very intuitive drag and drop GUI with a click of a mouse. So making it really easy for customers to build out these scale out security chaining. This is something which none of our competitors are able to do. So advanced features like health check is available, making sure that the architecture is resilient. And you also have capability to mark tools as mandatory and other tools as optional in chains. And you have HA with switch redundancy, and Big Mon also operates in what is known as headless mode of operations. So what that means is traffic will continue to flow even if both the controllers are down. So this is because the programming is already done on the switches, so no impact to production traffic even if controllers go down. Another use case that I just want to quickly touch upon is the Science DMZ use case, which it is something which is used for 100 gig deployments, for example, in universities. So when large flows known as elephant flows go through the firewall and other security tools, they cause choke points in the network. So unlike typical Big Mon service chains where traffic is steered towards the tools, in the Science DMZ use case, interesting traffic, in this case elephant flows, should bypass certain services because they are already trusted and they're whitelisted traffic. So This is also applicable in enterprises where you have an examples of elephant flows from storage backup traffic, which can be whitelisted since it's from trusted source. So in summary, Big Mon Inline provides a scalable, reliable, state-of-the-art security solution that is extremely simple to deploy and very affordable as well. And with the new normal being constant re-architecture of the DMZ for evolving security threats, a dynamic SDN-based solution like Big Mon Inline is the real answer. And as Greg mentioned, the solution has been validated with a Symantec Blue Coat SSLV and has been certified as ETM ready. So next I'll quickly talk about a customer implementation of the solution. So now this implementation happened at a Fortune 50 multinational energy corporation. Now the organization had the mandate to deploy advanced security services at the DMZ extranet sites. Now as they were looking to chain multiple of their available tools in the DMZ, they realized the complexity of the process. So they evaluated multiple solutions for inline service chaining and picked the joint Big Mon Inline and Symantec Blue Coat SSLV solution to deploy across several data centers. Now as discussed earlier, simplicity, resilience, and economics of the solution were the key drivers for this choice. And one thing to note here is that the customer can also do a span or tap of the traffic from these inline switches and send a copy of the packet to an external tool farm. Now let's quickly look at the traffic flow through the chain. So the Big Mon Inline switch sends SSL traffic to the SSLV tool, which decrypts the content, sends it out to the Big Mon Inline switch that is connected to it. Then the inline switch sends a decrypted traffic to the IPS service, which can inspect it for malware. If the decrypted traffic is not blocked or dropped by the IPS, it is returned back to the inline switch. It is then sent to the SSL Visibility tool, which completes its task for the outbound direction by encrypting the traffic and sending it back to the inline switch. So the packet is then sent out to the internet or into the production network, depending on the direction of the flow. So, so far we talked about protecting the data center edge. Next, let's look into the security within the data center. So traffic in the data center is typically monitored with tools for forensic analytics, threat protection, application and network performance monitoring, and typically network packet brokers or NPBs are deployed to aggregate, filter, replicate, or load balance traffic going to the tool farms. Now, traditional NPBs are complex, expensive, proprietary boxes that restrict scale of monitoring because of the prohibitive costs. They're operationally challenging because of the box-by-box management. They also cause tool silos, as more of the boxes are added as discrete units as monitoring needs grow. So people just cannot even think of monitoring everywhere in the data center with the traditional NPB solutions. So we clearly need a more scalable approach, and this requires a next generation packet broker with a next gen architecture that allows the monitoring infrastructure to scale easily along with the production network. Offer ease of operations and management and is low cost. So essentially what you need is an easy and affordable solution and something which can really make pervasive monitoring a reality. So Big Monitoring Fabric is that next-gen packet broker, and it is deployed across multiple of these use cases. We have gone through some of these use cases in other webinars. I will now go into details of one particular use case, which is a pervasive security, which we are implementing with Symantec Blue Coat. So let's actually go under the hood and look at how this joint solution enables pervasive security monitoring in data centers. So as you can see, the Big Mon is a fabric of 10 gig, 40 gig switches managed by a pair of controllers running SDN software. These are open networking switches from Acton and Dell. The fabric can be built from as small as a single switch and scaled out to several of them together to form one logical switch managed by a central controller. So once you connect these switches together and build out the topology, the entire fabric gets discovered by a centralized pair of controllers. The controllers act as a single pane of glass for operations. And in fact, if any of the links go down, the controller automatically finds alternate redundant paths, so there's no traffic interruption in the path. So you have built-in automation. And like inline mode, here also you have the headless mode of operations. Now, with this topology, you're able to tap every rack and every machine in production network, irrespective of the vendor, send it to the tool farm, which consists of security analytics as well as SSLV in the out-of-band mode from Symantec Blue Coat. And by doing this, the solution uniquely enables pervasive visibility and security monitoring for the production traffic. Now, another important component is the Big Mon service node, which is a DPDK service appliance, and it's an x86 appliance managed by the same controller. It provides advanced functions. So, overall, if you look at the solution, the key and critical benefits that are offered are simplicity of operations through automation and troubleshooting, and low capex investment, which makes the solution extremely compelling from TCO point of view. So the scale-out capability, ease of operations, and economics makes pervasive security, in fact, a reality for our customers. So next, Arkadiy will get into a demo of the Big Mon Inline solution with Symantec Blue Coat SSLV. Over to you, Arkadiy.
Great. Thank you so much, Bala and Greg. Let me switch over to the demo. All right. Hello, everyone. So in this demo, I'll talk about the Big Mon Fabric Inline solution with Symantec Blue Coat SSL Visibility Appliance. As we talked about, the joint deployment of two products enables customers to decrypt once and feed many inline security tools. So here's the traffic flow and the physical topology. First, we would have traffic coming out from a trusted network. So as you can see here in point number 1, going to NPB. The NPB, which here is the Big Mon Fabric Inline switch, will forward the traffic to the Blue Coat SSL Visibility Appliance for decryption. Decrypted traffic would go back to the Big Mon Fabric switch and will be forwarded to one or more intrusion prevention systems or whatever other tools you may have. Right? So once the intrusion prevention system inspects the traffic, and if this was malware, it would stop the traffic. If it wasn't malware, it would send the traffic back to the Big Mon Fabric Inline switch. The Big Mon Fabric Inline switch would forward it again to the Blue Coat SSL Visibility Appliance. The appliance would do the encryption and send traffic back to the Big Mon Fabric Inline switch, only to be sent to the internet, to the untrusted network. So this is a complete traffic flow, and the reverse direction happens in a similar way. So now going to the Big Mon Fabric, here's the view for the Big Mon Fabric Inline switch, and we can see the entire service chain. We have two endpoints for the service chain. Port 28 is really where our hosts are connected, our trusted network, and then port 31 is traffic outgoing to the internet. Looking at the service chain, we'll see 3 services here. So one service for encryption, one for IPS, and one for decryption. And so the services can be put in a chain here. And then if we look at the configuration of the service, we can go to the service on the left-hand side, click on the service, edit, and look at the service settings. So here we'll see the health check that Bala talked about are enabled, and the rules for the service. So for example, we can match an SSL traffic, we can match an old traffic, we can create even more custom rules over here. Okay. So going to the Blue Coat SSL Visibility Appliance, let's take a look at the rules that I've configured. So I have a pretty simple rule that basically what it does is just does the decryption with exception of any SSL unsupported sites. And here essentially all the traffic is decrypted, and you can have very sophisticated rules, including the host categorization that Greg talked about before, essentially checking specific host, specific websites, and making sure that that traffic is not decrypted. Okay. Now, segment configuration, we have a segment configured here, and the mode is called fail to wire, right, with the failover to appliance. Essentially what this allows us to do is pick a pair of ports, traffic coming in to that to the Blue Coat SSL Visibility Appliance, traffic gets decrypted, gets sent back to MPB, and then another pair, we see the decrypted traffic we re-encrypted back in. Now, going to the host, right, one of our Windows machines, let's try to access one of the websites. And here we've actually preloaded a certificate from Blue Coat, so we can access this website. And things are working okay because the website wasn't malicious, nothing was blocked. Now on the Big Mon Fabric, we can see that there's some statistics here. So for each service interface, traffic coming into the service, traffic going out of the service with this statistics, which is very useful. And on the Blue Coat SSL Visibility Appliance, we can see that that traffic is actually getting decrypted. And on the main dashboard, we can see the statistics for received and transmitted packets. Okay, so this concludes the demonstration, and then back to you, Bala.
Thank you, Arkadiy. So let me just quickly summarize and give you the complete picture here. Actually, this single picture will tell the complete story. So what we have is Symantec Blue Coat and Big Switch offering a comprehensive end-to-end security solution leveraging an SDN-based architecture, an architecture that is both modern and it is consistent with, the same architecture is used both for inline as well as out-of-band monitoring. And the controller is able to control and manage the inline deployment at the DMZ for security service chaining as well as pervasive security monitoring within the data center. Now with the advanced security capabilities that the Symantec SSLV offers, along with the unique and scalable SDN-based design of Big Mon, customers gain like 4 key benefits: simplicity of operations, benefits of automation, visibility and management through a single pane of glass, and last but not the least, very economical by leveraging industry standard hardware. Now customers all the way up to large Fortune 50 enterprises are leveraging this complete end-to-end data center security solution for solving their key security needs and are reaping the benefits offered by the solution. Thank you, and over to you.
This was a tremendous webinar today. Lots of information shared. Thank you, Greg, Bala, and Arkadiy. The demo was fabulous. I think you touched on really the top issues facing data management, security, and ensuring that information shared across users is secure and doesn't, frankly, corrupt the data in the enterprise. We have several folks who have asked questions, and I'm challenged because we are over time. And so for those who have sent in questions, rest assured we will get back to you. Our experts will get back to you with detailed answers. We know that there may be other information you need, and if there's something here that piqued your interest or you want more detail about how things work, different features within both the Symantec Blue Coat solution as well as Big Switch, Big Monitoring Fabric, please visit our website at bigswitch.com, and you can send us an email at info@bigswitch.com. We have a pretty rich website, Symantec Blue Coat as well, for its solutions. We make it easy for you to get started with Big Switch, and there are a number of resources you can download. In the handout section, again, as a reminder, on the GoToWebinar dashboard, there are specific handouts relevant to today's discussion. We also have BSN Labs, and you can experience Big Switch networks here firsthand from the comfort of your PC. We believe, and many of our trial users believe, that there's no better way to learn a product or technology than to actually take it for a test drive. So you can experience Big Monitoring Fabric here, Big Cloud Fabric here. It's free, it's easy, and it's real-time access to our SDN Fabric product. So please visit labs.bigswitch.com or download the handout that we have there. Finally, as with all of our past webinars, including this one, we'll be posting that online on the website so you can re-listen or download on demand, and again, ask questions online. Mark your calendar for Thursday, October 6th. That's our next webinar, and we're doing that in partnership with SDX Central, talking about the state of SDN adoption and data center network monitoring. Same time, same station. We absolutely look forward to talking to you then. Watch your emails for registration details, and again, visit our website for more info. That concludes our presentation for today, and we appreciate your time and attention. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.